really tough and they're really rough and nothing's working, but there's something inside of you that says, I just have to follow that because you don't know who you're going to meet.
Welcome to the Binge on Self-Love podcast. My name is Anna, but you can call me Anshi, and thank you so much for tuning in. Binge on Self-Love podcast is about navigating binge eating disorder struggles, disordered eating, and negative body image. Although I share my personal experience with having a negative body image, eating disorders, and I do uncover bits of my personal story, this podcast is not as much about me as it is about you. Beautiful human beings who struggle, who fight, who grow, and who evolve every single day. This podcast is for anyone who wants to feel supported on their recovery journey and simply for anyone who's trying to improve their relationship with themselves. I believe together we can turn something so negative, such as binge eating, into something more positive and hopefully go from binging on food and self-hatred to binging on self-love. Subscribe to the Binge on Self-Love podcast on your favorite platform and tune in every Tuesday for a new episode.
But there's something inside of you that says, I just have to follow that because you don't know who you're going to meet.
Disclaimer: Binge on Self-Love podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It doesn't provide professional medical advice and it is not a substitute for diagnosis or treatment. In this podcast, we cover the topic of eating disorders, so if you find this topic triggering, it may be better for you not to listen to this podcast. Always make sure to put your mental health first. Hello everyone, welcome to the Binge on Self-Love podcast. My name is Anna, but you can call me Anshi, and I'm your host. I hope you had a great start of the week so far, taking care of your body and soul. I know that living in this world where we're always so busy, running around, chasing our dreams, trying to meet the deadlines, that it can become difficult to prioritize our health, both physical and mental health. So I just wanted to kind of jump in and remind you that if you feel like you've been overlooking the self-care lately, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with slowing down, catching your breath, and taking some time for yourself. I've recently come across a comment in a fitness community on Facebook. It was a comment of this girl who shared her feelings that seeing before and after photos of people on the internet makes her anxious and it has a negative impact on her. And she said something that resonated with me and that I believe will resonate with so many of you too. That when people share the before and after photos of themselves, it's usually perceived like the before version was unhappy and quote-unquote fat and ugly, whereas the new version of that person is lean and toned and pretty. And the new version is the one that is celebrated by other people. And logically, that makes it seem like the before version of that person wasn't good enough because of the person's weight and appearance. And that emphasis on the weight and the appearance, yet again, makes it seem like we can only be happy and loved and feel beautiful if our scale shows a lower number than it did a day before. That post was so honest and it resonated with me so strongly, and I believe it does with so many of you too. And that's why I would like to dedicate today's episode to the dangers of celebrating weight loss, not just on social media and the internet, but also of those around us. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Sharing before and after body transformation pictures can be toxic. I am not saying that everyone will see it that way. I'm not even implying that we should ban photos like these. I'm just saying that for many people, seeing these before and after photos can be toxic and harmful. The reason why is that it can send a message that there's a certain type of body that's worth being celebrated more than some other type of body. It sends the message that the after body is not only better, but that it also means that the person after is now so much happier, fulfilled, living their best life. Seeing photos like these on the internet can lead to people comparing themselves and their bodies to those on the after photos. It may not seem like that much of a big deal, and you may object that everyone is responsible for themselves and their actions, which is of course true. But what if you're a teenager who feels really insecure about their body, and the message they receive from seeing that photo is that if you lose weight, you can also feel beautiful? And what if you're an adult who struggles with body image and seeing this photo triggers negative thoughts towards your body and yourself even more? The thing is, with the before and after photos, and the tricky part about celebrating weight loss is that if someone works hard, they are dedicated to changing something, improving their physique or their health in one way or another, and they lose the weight, of course that people feel proud of their accomplishments and proud of reaching their goal, and they should be. We shouldn't take that away from them. But then, by celebrating their weight loss, complimenting them on how great they look being this and this amount of pounds later, doesn't that put too much focus on the appearance and weight? And doesn't that subliminally say, okay, so you look so much better now than you did before, which basically means that you are better than you were before? I'm sorry for interrupting, but I wanted to quickly jump in to say that if you enjoy listening to this episode, then don't hesitate to subscribe to the Binge on Self-Love podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or any other platform. This podcast is free and you will be notified when a new episode is out. Thank you in advance for subscribing, and now back to the podcast. Lose weight fast in just 30 days. A secret trick to fast weight loss. I'm sure you've seen or heard headlines like these on numerous occasions, both online and offline, on the internet, on social media, in magazines, on TV, on radio, wherever. Not only are these quote-unquote lose weight fast bullshits potentially harmful to our physical health, but they can also do a lot of damage to our mental health, our body image, and our eating habits as well. So many people get inspired by these transformation pictures, so they decide to go on such a journey themselves. But instead of being clear on why do they really want to make this change, and preferably getting help from either a professional certified personal trainer or a nutritional therapist, they follow these weight loss plans or workout plans promising quick results. And that can lead to people trying to lose weight or change their body in a way for all the wrong reasons. I'm someone who's been dealing with binge eating for years, and I have a long history of eating disorders. And personally, I know that anytime I would decide to go on a diet, or if I would make a weight loss my ultimate goal, it wouldn't end well. Weight loss, in my mind, is the ultimate trigger for binge eating and starving as a way to compensate for the binges, all accompanied by feeling of self-loathing and low to no self-worth. So I know that I must avoid any kind of quote-unquote temptation to follow a crazy diet just because this before/after photo proves these great results, or because this person following this plan looks this great. That's what it is to me. I'm not saying it's like that for everyone, of course not, but being on both sides of the eating disorders, having it and then recovering from it, I know that this can happen to so many people who approach weight loss as a mean to happiness and self-worth. If you follow a crazy diet plan promising you quick results, it's usually based on cutting your calorie intake significantly rather than gradually, often restricting certain food types altogether. And even though you may lose weight pretty quickly, the consequences can be long-term. I know so many people who started binging once their diet was over because their body felt deprived. I know that when we see people sharing their photos of themselves online, showing their weight loss transformation, or when we see fitness coaches sharing photos of their clients, the inner part of ourselves that cares about the appearance and cares about the opinions of other people we also feel the need to maybe try this, to look our best, to look this way. And I think there's nothing wrong with it in itself, because let's not fool ourselves here. As much as I would like to say that appearance doesn't matter, it does in some ways to all of us. And I think it's kind of natural. We want to look good and feel good. But I also think that appearance and looking a certain way shouldn't be our only or our main motivation to change something about ourselves. The main danger of celebrating someone's weight loss is that you don't know what mindset that person you're complimenting on is in. What is their history with food, exercise, and body image? And most importantly, you don't know what was their inner motivation to lose weight or to get lean. It can be a completely healthy person with nearly unshakable self-confidence and no history of negative body image or eating disorder whatsoever, and your comment does no harm. But it can also be someone who's self-conscious, someone with a very fragile body image, someone with a negative relationship towards themselves, a person with disordered eating or eating disorder. You also don't know what the motives behind the weight loss journey were. You don't know what their practices were. Maybe they wanted to lose weight for health reasons and they didn't follow any crazy diets. But what if they were? And what if they wanted to lose as much weight as quickly as possible, sticking to crazy diets because they believed that if they weighed less, they would feel prettier, or that someone out there will find them more beautiful and worth loving? Also, I would love to point out that looking your best physically doesn't always reflect how you're feeling mentally, and vice versa. From my own experience, I know that when I was at my lowest weight, according to these general standards, I must have been my happiest, living my best life. And paradoxically, I felt like shit. I felt probably the worst I have ever felt. If someone would come and say, "Hey, you look so great. How did you do that? You look so much better than you did before," it would only confirm to me that all this hell that I went through to get to this point was worth it, just so that someone somewhere can have a comment like this. And therefore, I think there's a very thin and dangerous and nearly impossible to distinguish line between complimenting someone on their achievement and giving someone reassurance that weight loss is a way to being accepted and liked and worth celebrating. What I keep saying all throughout this podcast is that rather than focusing on our weight and our appearance, we should focus more on our health. Our health is complex and it's so much more than a number on a scale. Being super skinny doesn't equal being happy or healthy, and not being super skinny doesn't equal being unhappy or unworthy. The sooner we realize that, the sooner we can start caring for our bodies and our minds. What I'm trying to say is that we should take the focus of the appearance itself and focus rather on our health, both physical and mental health. I'm thinking maybe we should make it more about celebrating people's success in achieving their goal and trying to focus more on why is someone trying to make that change in their life, being it losing weight, exercising, learning to speak Spanish, going out more, or whatever it might be. Isn't it better to understand why is someone trying to change something, and then you can easily compliment them on someone without hurting them? If you want to compliment someone, why not try to compliment on something other than their weight or appearance? Because if you think about it, if we praise someone for losing weight, we are basically saying that they're better this way than they were before. And think of what would happen if that person gained the weight back. Should they feel like they failed, like they are worse than they were before? Would we say to them something like, "Oh, you actually look so much worse now"? Of course not, but we shouldn't even imply that with our comments. So why not to try and compliment on something else than their appearance and their weight? So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, don't forget to share the Binge on Self-Love podcast with anyone who you think will benefit from it and help us grow the podcast community. Make sure to subscribe to the Binge on Self-Love podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or YouTube. I'll be back next Tuesday with another episode. Until then, take care and talk to you soon. Bye!
Have to be your biggest fan. And when things are really tough and they're really rough and nothing's working, but there's something inside of you that says, I just have to follow that. Because you don't know who you